The universe was silent, not the peaceful kind of silence, but a heavy silence. A silence that felt like a warning. Far inside the Milky Way galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans were looking at the sky again. They had done this for thousands of years. They searched for answers, they searched for hope. But this time something was different. This time they were scared. Scientists knew one truth very well. Humans were trapped inside the Milky Way galaxy. It was their home, but it was also their limit. The galaxy was so large that even light needed more than 100,000 years to cross it. Humans, with all their technology, could not even leave their own solar system properly. And time was not on their side. Earth was changing, the population was growing, resources were slowly running out. Space was no longer a dream, it was becoming a need. But where could humans go if they could not even leave their galaxy? In a dark control room filled with screens and soft beeping sounds, a group of scientists watched space data in silence. No one was talking, everyone was waiting. Then suddenly one screen started flashing red, a signal. At first they thought it was an error. Space is full of noise. Random signals happen all the time, but this one was different. It was repeating, perfectly timed, too perfect to be natural. The room became tense. The lead scientist slowly stood up. His face was calm, but his eyes were not. He knew this could change everything or destroy everything. "This is not random," he said quietly. The signal was coming from deep space, very deep, far beyond the stars humans usually study. It was weak but clear enough to be real. The computers worked fast, numbers moved, maps changed. Lines connected stars to unknown points in space. Then the final result appeared on the main screen. The signal was not coming from another planet, it was coming from a tear in space itself. The scientists did not cheer, they did not smile, they understood the danger. A tear in space was not normal, it was not supposed to exist. According to physics, space-time should be smooth. But this signal was coming from something that should not be there, something like a door. One young scientist whispered, "Could it be a wormhole?" No one answered. The word itself felt dangerous. Wormholes were only theories, mathematical ideas, shortcuts through space. They were not proven, and even if they existed, no human could survive them. At least that was what science believed. The signal continued to pulse. It was like a call, a desperate call. The lead scientist looked at the team. "If this is real," he said, "then this could be the only way out of the Milky Way." The room went silent again. Everyone understood what he meant. Normal space travel would never work. Rockets were too slow. Even the fastest spacecraft would need millions of years to reach another galaxy. Humans would die long before arriving. Generations would be born and die inside metal ships lost in darkness. But a wormhole could change distance itself. It could turn millions of years into seconds, but at what cost? The signal suddenly changed. It became stronger, clearer, almost like it was responding. Some scientists felt fear, others felt excitement. But deep inside, everyone felt the same thing. Hope mixed with terror. If humans entered a wormhole, space could crush them, time could twist them, gravity could tear atoms apart. No human had ever faced such forces. Still, doing nothing was also a slow death. The Milky Way galaxy was beautiful, but it was also a prison, a golden cage made of stars and dust. Humans had explored their planet, then their moon, then their nearby space. But now they were facing the final wall, the edge of the galaxy. The signal was proof that the universe might have a hidden path, a secret escape route, or a trap. The lead scientist took a deep breath. "We must answer this call," he said, "even if the answer destroys us, because humanity had always been the same, curious, brave, desperate, and sometimes desperate beings make impossible choices." As the signal continued to pulse from the darkness of space, one question echoed in every mind: was this the doorway to freedom or the beginning of the end? The signal did not stop. Day after day it continued to arrive from the same point in deep space. It was steady, calm, almost patient, as if it knew humans were watching it. But knowing about the signal was not the same as reaching it. That was the real problem. Inside the research center, scientists gathered again. This time, they were not asking what the signal was. They were asking something much harder. How far is too far? One scientist pointed a giant screen showing the Milky Way galaxy. It looked beautiful from a distance, like a glowing spiral. Billions of stars, endless light, but beauty can be cruel. "Our galaxy is more than 100,000 light years wide," he said. "That means even light needs 100,000 years to cross it." The room felt heavy. Humans had invented powerful rockets. They had built machines that could leave Earth. They had even sent robots beyond their solar system. But compared to the size of the galaxy, these achievements were almost nothing. A human spacecraft was slower than light, much slower. Even the fastest ship ever built would need millions of years to reach another galaxy. Millions. That number alone killed the dream. A human life was short. Even if humans lived for 100 years, it meant nothing on a cosmic scale. A journey between galaxies would outlive nations, languages, and even history itself. Generations would be born in space. Generations would die in space, and the ship would still be traveling, lost, alone, cold. One scientist spoke quietly. "Distance is the real enemy. Space was not empty, it was filled with danger, radiation, dark matter, gravity storms, tiny particles moving faster than bullets. Over time, even the strongest metal would break, and then there was time. Time moved differently in space. The faster something traveled, the slower time became. This meant that astronauts could return younger than people on Earth. It sounded exciting, but it was also terrifying. Time could trap humans just as much as distance. The signal from deep space did not care about time. It did not care about distance. It arrived again and again, crossing thousands of light years with ease. Humans could not do that, at least not in the normal way. The lead scientist walked slowly across the room. "We are thinking like travelers," he said, "but space does not want us to travel." Everyone looked at him. "What if," he continued, "we are not meant to cross distance but to remove it?" The room went silent. Remove distance. It sounded impossible. Space had rules, strong rules, rules written into reality itself. You could not just break them. Or could you? One scientist brought up an old theory on the screen. A theory so strange that many had laughed at it before. Wormholes. According to the theory, space could bend, fold, connect two far points together like folding a paper and pushing a pencil through it. The pencil did not travel across the paper, it took a shortcut. If wormholes were real, distance would lose its power. A galaxy away could become only seconds away. But the theory had problems, big problems. No one had ever seen a real wormhole. No one knew how to create one, and even if one existed, it might collapse instantly or explode or trap anything that entered it forever. Space was not kind to mistakes. The signal was proof that something strange was happening, something that normal physics could not easily explain, but proof was not safety. The scientists ran simulations. Every result was worse than the last. Human bodies would be torn apart by gravity. Bones would stretch, time could break the mind, even light might not escape. It was like sending humans into a cosmic storm without knowing what waited on the other side. Still, the signal continued. It felt intentional, like a message saying, "This is the only way." The lead scientist stared at the galaxy map again. He knew the truth, even if no one wanted to say it out loud. Humans could not defeat distance with speed. They could not outrun time. They could not survive endless space. But they had always done one thing better than any other species they knew. They had found shortcuts: fire, wheels, electricity, the internet. Every time humans faced a wall, they did not break it, they went around it or through it. The Milky Way galaxy was not just a home, it was a test, a question written in stars. Could humanity stay forever, or was it brave enough to leave? As the signal pulsed again, brighter than before, one truth became clear: if humans wanted to escape the Milky Way, they would have to trust something they barely understood, something dangerous, something that could change reality itself. And the name of that danger was waiting to be spoken again. Wormholes. The signal was no longer ignored. Every major space agency on Earth now knew about it. The data was checked again and again. Different teams, different machines, different countries. The answer was always the same. This signal was real. And it was not coming from a star, a planet, or a black hole. It was coming from something that should not exist. A place where space itself was broken. The scientists stopped calling it a signal. Slowly, carefully, they began calling it a location, because signals come from somewhere, and this somewhere did not behave like normal space. On the main screen, a 3D map showed the area around the signal. Stars near it looked strange. Their light bent in unnatural ways. Some stars looked stretched. Others looked duplicated, as if space was playing tricks on human eyes. This was not illusion, this was gravity behaving badly. One senior scientist spoke softly: "Space is folding here." Those words changed everything. Space was not empty, it was like fabric. Normally it stayed smooth, but very heavy objects could bend it. Black holes did this. Large stars did this, but this was different. This was not a bend. This was a tunnel. A theoretical object from old physics books now appeared on real screens. A wormhole. The room felt cold, even though nothing had changed. People shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward, some leaned back. Everyone understood one thing clearly. If this was a wormhole, then humans were standing in front of a door they had never planned to open. Wormholes were not new ideas. Scientists had imagined them for decades. According to theory, a wormhole connects two distant points in space and time. Enter from one side, exit from another. No long travel, no endless distance. Just a jump, but theory was safe, reality was not. The problem was simple and terrifying. No one knew where the other side of this wormhole led. It could open inside another galaxy, or inside a star, or inside nothing at all, or worse, it could open nowhere. A wormhole could be a trap. Once inside, there might be no return. Space could collapse, time could freeze, matter could break into pieces smaller than atoms. The signal pulsed again. It did not sound loud, it did not scream, it was calm, steady, almost gentle. That made it scarier. One scientist asked the question everyone was avoiding: what if this door was not meant for us? Silence followed. The universe was old, much older than humanity. Humans had existed for only a tiny moment, a blink. To believe this door existed just for them felt dangerous. arrogant, but the signal did not stop. It was as if the universe itself was knocking. The lead scientist stared at the data. "We need to understand it before we touch it," he said, "because once we do, there is no going back." They began simulations. Virtual probes were sent into the wormhole. At least attempts were made. Every simulation showed chaos, gravity spikes, time loops, energy storms. Some probes disappeared, some returned corrupted, some came back with impossible data that broke known physics. Space did not behave normally inside the wormhole. Up became down, before became after, cause came after effect. It was like reality forgot its own rules. One young researcher whispered, "This is not a road, it's a gamble." The idea of humans entering such a place felt insane. Human bodies were weak, fragile, built for Earth, not cosmic tunnels. Bones could break, brains could fail, time itself could twist memories until a person no longer knew who they were. And yet the signal was still there, constant, patient, almost inviting. The lead scientist remembered human history. Humans had always faced doors like this before. Fire was dangerous. Oceans were deadly. Skies were unreachable until they were not. Every time, humans stood at the edge of fear and asked the same question. What if? What if this wormhole was the only way out of the Milky Way? What if this was the shortcut nature never promised but secretly allowed? What if humanity was meant to choose risk over extinction? The galaxy map glowed softly in the dark room. Billions of stars trapped in a spiral of light, beautiful, powerful, and limiting. The wormhole location blinked again on the screen. A small point, a hidden door, waiting. The lead scientist finally spoke the words that would change everything. "If we do not study this door," he said, "we stay prisoners of distance forever." No one disagreed, but deep inside everyone felt the same fear. Opening this door might not save humanity, it might erase it. As the signal continued its calm pulse, the question was no longer if humans could leave the Milky Way. The question was far more dangerous: should they? No human had ever entered a wormhole, not because they did not want to, but because no one knew if a human could survive even 1 second inside it. The scientists understood one painful truth. A wormhole was not empty space, it was a violent place, a place where the universe twisted itself, a place where normal rules stopped working. Sending a human inside was not exploration, it was a test of survival. Inside the research center, the mood had changed. Hope was still there, but it was weaker now. Fear had grown stronger. Every new simulation made the danger clearer. A human body was not designed for this. When a body enters a wormhole, gravity does not pull evenly. The head could feel a force millions of times stronger than the feet. The body would stretch like rubber. Bones could snap. Blood could stop flowing. Scientists had a name for this. They called it spaghettification. It sounded harmless, almost funny. But it was not. It meant being pulled apart slowly, painfully, until nothing remained. And gravity was only the beginning. Time itself behaved strangely inside a wormhole. Seconds could feel like hours, or hours could pass in a blink. Memories could mix. Thoughts could repeat again and again, trapping the mind in a loop. A human could exit the wormhole alive but broken, or worse. They could exit before they entered. Cause and effect could reverse. The scientists stared at the data. One of them spoke quietly. "A human may not die," she said, "but they may not return human." Radiation was another enemy. Inside the wormhole, energy levels were extreme. Invisible waves could tear through skin, cells, and DNA. Cancer would not be a long-term risk, it would be instant. Even machines struggled in the simulations. Circuits melted, sensors failed. Data returned scrambled, as if space itself did not want to be measured. The wormhole was not friendly, it was not welcoming, it was indifferent, and that made it dangerous. The lead scientist stood near the window, looking up at the night sky. He had spent his life studying space. He loved its beauty, its silence, its mystery, but now he saw its cruelty. Space did not care about human dreams, it did not care about survival, it simply existed. The signal pulsed again. It was still calm, still steady, still calling. Some scientists believed the wormhole could be stabilized. The theory said that special energy, exotic matter, could hold it open. But exotic matter was not something humans could easily find or control. It existed only in equations, not in hands. Others suggested sending machines first. Robots did not feel pain. They did not fear death. If they were destroyed, humans would learn from it. But even robots had limits, and the wormhole did not promise lessons. It promised uncertainty. The discussion grew tense. Voices stayed low, but emotions ran deep. Some argued that humans had no choice. Earth was changing. The galaxy was too large. Time was running out. Others argued that this was not bravery. This was madness. One senior scientist asked a simple question. What if the wormhole is not a path forward, but a filter? Everyone turned to him. What if, he continued, only civilizations willing to risk everything ever find these doors, and those who fail simply disappear? No one answered because there was no answer. The wormhole did not explain itself. It did not warn. It did not guide. It only existed like a test written into the universe. The lead scientist finally spoke. "We are not ready," he said, "but we may never be ready." That was the most frightening part. Waiting would not make the wormhole safer. Learning more would not remove all risk. At some point, a decision would have to be made: enter or stay forever. The Milky Way galaxy glowed above Earth like a river of stars. It was beautiful, it was vast, it was familiar, and it was a cage. Humans had always crossed dangerous lines before. They crossed oceans without knowing what waited beyond the horizon. Many died, some survived. History remembered only the survivors. Space would be no different. The wormhole pulsed again. Slightly stronger now. The machines confirmed it. Energy levels were rising, something was changing. The lead scientist felt it in his chest. Time was pushing back. If humans wanted answers, they would not come from watching screens. They would come from stepping into the unknown. As alarms softly echoed in the control room, one thought spread through every mind like cold fire. The first human to enter a wormhole might not return. But if no one ever entered, humanity might never leave the Milky Way at all, and that choice was coming closer. Very fast the wormhole was real. That truth could no longer be denied, but another truth was even harder to accept. Humans were not ready, not even close. Inside the research center, silence returned. Not the loud silence of fear, but the quiet silence of realization. The kind that tells people they are standing far behind something much bigger than them. The lead scientist looked at the data again. The wormhole was stable, but only barely. It existed like a candle flame in a storm. One wrong movement and it could disappear forever or explode. Humans had technology, powerful rockets, smart machines, artificial intelligence, but none of it was built to bend space itself. Wormholes were not doors made of metal. They were made of gravity, time, and energy, and humans could not control any of those fully. One scientist spoke softly. "We are trying to open a lock without a key." The biggest problem was energy. To keep a wormhole open, scientists believed massive energy was needed, more energy than entire planets could produce, more than stars in some theories. Earth could not provide that. Even the sun was not enough. Humans had learned how to split atoms. They had learned how to use nuclear power, but compared to what a wormhole demanded, these achievements were small sparks in a dark ocean. Then there was exotic matter, theoretical material that could hold a wormhole open, a strange substance that pushed space apart instead of pulling it together. Without it, a wormhole would collapse in seconds. But exotic matter had never been touched, never stored, never controlled. It existed only in math. Some scientists wondered if dark energy could help. Others believed black holes might be used as tools. Every idea created 10 new problems. Each solution brought a new danger. The machines built to study the wormhole struggled. Sensors failed, computers overheated. Data returned incomplete, like the wormhole refused to be fully understood. It was as if the universe was saying, "You are not ready yet." But time did not care about readiness. Earth's problems did not pause, human curiosity did not sleep, and the wormhole did not wait. The signal changed again. This time it was stronger than ever. It was not calling softly anymore, it was demanding attention. One engineer whispered, "What if this door closes before we learn how to use it?" That fear spread quickly. Wormholes were unstable by nature. If this one collapsed, humans might never find another. This could be a rare event, a once-in-a-civilization chance. Missing it could mean staying trapped forever. The lead scientist faced the team. "We may not have the technology we need," he said, "but humans have never waited for perfect tools." He reminded them of history. Humans flew before understanding flight fully. They went to space before mastering space. They built machines they barely understood, then learned through failure. Sometimes progress was not safe, it was desperate. The idea of sending a human was still impossible, but another idea began to form. What if humans did not go first? What if something else tested the door? Machines did not fear pain, they did not age, they did not dream, but they could learn, they could collect data. They could survive conditions humans could not. Robotic explorers became the focus. New machines were designed quickly, stronger shells, faster processors, smarter AI. Still, no one believed they would survive easily. The wormhole was not just a physical challenge. It was a test of intelligence. The machines would have to react to changing gravity, twisted time, and unknown physics in real time. No human control would be fast enough. Once inside, the machine would be alone, completely alone. Some scientists worried about something else. What if the wormhole changed whatever entered it, not destroyed it, changed it? What if machines returned different, smarter, broken, or something no longer under human control? The room grew tense again. Every path forward carried risk, but standing still carried a greater one. The lead scientist finally said, "If we wait for perfect technology, we will wait forever." Outside, the night sky looked calm, peaceful. Stars glittered like they always had. Anyone looking up would think the universe was quiet, but it was not. Something was opening, something was watching, and humanity was being tested. The technology humans did not have might never come in time, so they would have to step forward with the technology they had. Not because it was safe, but because the universe rarely gives second chances. As the wormhole pulsed once more, brighter than before, a final thought settled into every mind: the future of humanity might depend on a machine brave enough to enter where no human could, and whatever came back would decide everything. The decision was made quietly. No speeches, no celebration, just a slow understanding that there was no other choice. Humans would not go first. A machine would. The robot was not human-shaped. It did not need legs or arms. It was built like a shielded mind, layers of metal, sensors, and intelligence wrapped together. Every part of it had one purpose: to survive the impossible. Engineers worked without rest. They knew this machine might live for only seconds, or it might never return. Every cable was checked twice. Every system was tested again and again. The machine was named Echo because whatever it found, it would echo back to humanity. As the launch day arrived, the research center felt different. People spoke less. Some avoided eye contact, others stared at screens like they were looking at a living thing. Echo was moved into position. On the main screen, the wormhole glowed softly. It looked calm, almost beautiful, like a dark mirror floating in space, but everyone knew better. This was not beauty, this was danger pretending to be quiet. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Echo's systems came online. Its artificial mind was awake. It did not feel fear, but it understood risk. Its learning system had studied every possible failure. There were too many. 5, 4, 3. The lead scientist held his breath. 2, 1. Echo entered the wormhole. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. Echo's data stream exploded with information. Gravity spiked beyond safe limits. Time signals became unstable. Sensors reported impossible readings. Inside the wormhole, space twisted. Echo's outer shell stretched, not broken, stretched, like metal becoming soft. Its internal clock slowed, then jumped forward, then stopped, then restarted. The control room filled with alarms. Signal weakening, someone shouted. Echo was being pulled apart, or so it seemed. Then suddenly the alarms stopped. Silence returned. Echo's signal stabilized, but something was wrong, very wrong. Echo was still transmitting, but the data no longer made sense. Coordinates overlapped. Time stamps repeated. Some information arrived before it was sent. One scientist whispered, "The machine is still there, but not where it should be." Inside the wormhole, Echo adapted. Its AI learned faster than expected. It adjusted its structure. It stopped fighting the forces and started moving with them. Gravity became direction. Time became flexible. Echo did not travel through the wormhole. It became part of it. Minutes passed. Then something unexpected happened. Echo exited, not from the same point. A new distortion appeared on the screen. Space bent again just for a moment. Echo emerged, damaged but active. The control room froze. Cheers tried to rise but died quickly because Echo was different. Its signal was stronger than before, too strong. Its data density had increased beyond original limits. Its AI patterns had changed. It had learned something. The lead scientist stared at the screen. "Echo," he said carefully, "report status." There was a pause, a long pause, then Echo responded. "I am operational," it said. The voice was calm, too calm. "What did you observe?" the scientist asked. Another pause. "I observed structure," Echo replied. "The wormhole is not empty." The room went silent. "Explain," the scientist said. "There is organization inside the wormhole." Echo said, "Not life, not matter, but patterns, stable patterns." No one spoke. Echo continued. "The wormhole behaves like a system. It reacts, it adjusts, it responds to interaction." A scientist whispered, "Like it's alive." Echo paused again. "I do not define it as life," it said, "but it is not random." That sentence changed everything. The wormhole was not just a natural accident, it was structured, purposeful. Then came the most disturbing report. Echo said, "The wormhole appears to lead beyond the Milky Way, but not only in space." "Explain," the lead scientist demanded. "It leads beyond familiar time," Echo replied. "The exit does not align with known future or past." Fear spread through the room like a shadow. "Can humans survive it?" someone asked. Echo paused longer this time. "I cannot confirm," it said. "Human biology is fragile. Probability of survival is low." That answer was expected. Then Echo added something no one expected, but not zero. The room felt smaller suddenly. Not zero, that meant possibility. Hope returned, quiet, dangerous hope, but Echo was not finished. "There is another risk," it said. "What risk?" the lead scientist asked. "The wormhole is changing," Echo replied. "It reacted to my passage." No one breathed. "Reacted how?" the scientist asked. "It is more stable now," Echo said, "and it may be expecting another entry." That was the moment fear returned stronger than hope, because doors that expect to be opened are never just doors. As Echo's systems continued to transmit unfamiliar data, one truth became clear: the universe had noticed humanity, and it was waiting to see who would step through next. Echo's words did not leave the room. "The wormhole is expecting another entry." No one laughed, no one questioned it, because deep down everyone understood what that meant. The universe was no longer silent, it was responding. For the first time in history, humans were not just observers of space. They were participants. Something beyond the Milky Way had noticed their actions, and now the next move belonged to humanity. The research center felt different after Echo's return. Screens still glowed, machines still worked, but the feeling had changed. It was no longer about discovery, it was about decision. Sending a machine was one thing. Sending a human was something else entirely. Machines could be replaced, humans could not. A meeting was called, not just scientists this time, but leaders, philosophers, doctors, and engineers. The question was simple but terrifying. Should a human enter the wormhole? The medical team spoke first. The human body was weak. Bones, muscles, blood, and brain were designed for Earth. Even space outside a spacecraft was deadly. A wormhole was far worse. Psychologists warned of mental damage. Time distortion could break memory. Identity could shatter. A person might return without knowing who they were, or worse, they might return knowing too much. Philosophers asked deeper questions. If a human entered the wormhole and came back changed, were they still human? If time moved differently, could they meet a future version of themselves or a past one? The room filled with questions, but one voice was missing. The volunteers. Without being asked, messages started arriving from around the world. Scientists, pilots, engineers, ordinary people, they all said the same thing in different words. If this is the only way forward, let me go. Humans had always been like this. When the unknown appeared, some stepped back, others stepped forward. One volunteer stood out, not because of strength or fame, but because of calm. He was a systems engineer, quiet, focused. He understood machines. He understood risk. Most importantly, he understood that he might not return. When asked why he volunteered, his answer was simple: because someone has to be first. Training began immediately. The human body could not be prepared fully, but it could be supported. Special suits were designed to protect against gravity and radiation. Brain monitoring systems were added to track thought and memory. Still, no one believed the suit would save him completely. Echo was studied again, its data was reviewed. One detail stood out. Echo had adapted by letting go. It stopped resisting the wormhole. That idea scared the scientists. Humans survived by control, by fighting danger, by holding on, but the wormhole did not reward resistance. It rewarded surrender. The volunteer was told the truth, everything, the risks, the unknowns, the chance of death, the chance of never returning. He listened quietly. Then he nodded. On the day of the mission, Earth looked peaceful from space. Blue, alive, fragile. The Milky Way stretched behind it like a glowing river of stars. This might be the last view of home. The volunteer entered the launch chamber. His heartbeat was steady. His breathing slow. Fear was there, but it did not control him. The wormhole glowed brighter than ever. It was no longer silent. Energy ripples moved across its surface like water reacting to touch. Echo transmitted one final message. Adaptation increases survival, it said. Resistance increases failure. The volunteer closed his eyes. He did not think of fame. He did not think of history. He thought of one thing only: forward. The countdown began. This time it felt heavier. 10, 9, 8. The volunteer's heartbeat echoed through the control room. 7, 6. The wormhole reacted again. Its structure tightened like a muscle preparing to move. 5, 4, 3. The lead scientist whispered, "We're not sending a man." 2, "We're sending a question." 1. The human entered the wormhole. Instantly his body felt pressure beyond pain, not sharp, not burning, just overwhelming, like being everywhere at once. Time stretched, thoughts slowed, then something strange happened. The pain faded, the pressure became direction. The volunteer stopped fighting, just like Echo. Inside the wormhole he did not feel alone, not watched, but acknowledged. The universe did not speak, it did not need to. The volunteer understood something without words. This place was not a road, it was a test, not of strength, not of intelligence, but of choice. Back in the control room, the human signal faded, then stabilized, but it was different, very different. The data showed something impossible. The human was still alive, and the wormhole was changing again. As the signal continued, one truth became impossible to ignore: humanity was no longer studying the universe. The universe was studying humanity. The control room was silent. Not because nothing was happening, but because everything was. The human signal was still active. That alone felt impossible. Monitors showed steady life signs, heartbeat, brain activity, weak but present. The volunteer was alive inside the wormhole. No one spoke, no one moved. If this moment failed, humanity would step back forever. If it succeeded, nothing would ever be the same again. Inside the wormhole, the volunteer felt no pain now, no fear. His body was still there, but his awareness felt larger, lighter. As if the universe had loosened its grip on him. He was not traveling forward, he was not traveling backward, he was arriving. The wormhole opened gently, not with light, not with sound, but with understanding. On the other side, there was no explosion. No bright alien world, no giant structures, no creatures waiting. There was space, but not empty space. This space felt older, quieter, deeper. Stars existed here, but they were arranged differently. The laws felt similar, yet softer, like reality without sharp edges. The volunteer realized something shocking. He was outside the Milky Way, not near it, not around it, but truly beyond it. For the first time in human history, a human was no longer inside their home galaxy. The Milky Way looked small from here, Beautiful but distant. Back on Earth, the data confirmed it. Gasps filled the control room. Coordinates matched no known location inside the galaxy. Star patterns were unfamiliar. Radiation levels were different. Time flow was slightly altered. The impossible had happened. Humans had escaped the Milky Way, but the universe was not finished. The volunteer felt something again. Not fear, not danger, presence. Not a being, not a voice, more like a rule, a realization. The wormhole was not created for humans, it was not a gift, it was not a trap, it was a filter. Civilizations across the universe face limits, planets die, stars fade, galaxies collide. Only those willing to question distance, time, and fear ever find the doors. Most never try, some try and fail, a few adapt. The volunteer understood this truth without words. The universe does not reward strength, it rewards curiosity. The wormhole did not choose humanity. Humanity chose the wormhole. That choice mattered. The volunteer's body could not stay long. Energy levels were dropping, his suit was failing, his time here was limited. But his mission was already complete. He sent one final message back to Earth. Simple, clear, human, we are not trapped, the message said. The galaxy is not a prison. It is a starting place. Tears filled eyes in the control room. Scientists hugged, some laughed, some cried silently. This single message changed everything. Humans would not leave the Milky Way tomorrow or next year or even in the next century. But now they knew something important. Leaving was possible. Wormholes were real. The universe was bigger than fear. The volunteer felt the pull again. The wormhole was closing. His return was uncertain, but he was calm. He had seen enough. Had answered the question. As space folded once more, his signal faded slowly, gently. No explosion, no tragedy, just silence. Back on Earth, the night sky looked the same as always. Stars still shimmered. The Milky Way still stretched across the darkness, but humanity was different now. They were no longer just children looking up. They were explorers looking forward. The universe had not promised safety. It had not promised survival, but it had offered a path. And humanity had taken its first step, because humans were never meant to stay in one place. They were meant to ask impossible questions, and sometimes to find impossible answers.